So how exactly are we supposed to make sense of what's going on in the housing market right now? For the past 2 years, it has been just insanity. It's been one of the most competitive housing markets that has ever existed in modern history. But now we have some new variables that are in play. And if you saw my video last week, we talked about the cooling of the housing market. But just understand that cooling does not mean cold. It's a long process that's going to get us there. We know that record inflation has caused the Federal Reserve to increase interest rates dramatically, now at about 6%, likely going higher. We're either in a recession or we're entering a recession. Plus, when you factor all those things in together, just an overall scary economic forecast, and that gets amplified by the media on a daily basis. So when you see these things happening, you have to start to wonder and question, well, why isn't the housing market changing much quicker and much more rapidly? And we're going to talk about that today. So my name is Justin Braverman. I'm with the HBB Realty Group. We're brokered by eXp Realty, and we want to examine exactly what the number one factor is, despite everything else going on, that's causing a very, very competitive housing market to remain in most situations. And it really comes down to one thing and one thing only: supply and demand. Right now, we are looking at record low amounts of inventory that are currently in many of the towns that are highest in demand. And we're going to take a look at three of those examples. And these charts will help explain exactly why we're not seeing a much bigger shift. So we're going to take first look at Westfield. Westfield is one of these places that everybody gravitates to in one form or the other. And what we're seeing is that in 2019, 809 homes were newly listed onto the market. And that was after a slow build after the recession, the Great Recession, and we started to slowly build up to 809. Then during the pandemic, we started to gradually decrease to the point now where in 2022, we're projected to only have 454 new listings that will come onto the market throughout the full calendar year. That's 56% of the inventory that had previously existed in the years leading up to the pandemic and this wild housing market that we're in right now. So Westfield is a prime example, but it doesn't stop there. The next example will be a very similar neighboring market, Scotch Plains. Scotch Plains, a very similar story. We gradually built inventory after the Great Recession, when we reached a high point of 572 new listings in 2018. And ever since then, especially during the pandemic, we've whittled away at that to where we're projected to only have 338 new listings come onto the market in 2022. That's 59% of the inventory that had existed before the pandemic housing market. And this is not just limited to these two towns in Union County. If we go up north just a little bit to another town that is similar in overall demand, if we take a look at Maplewood, the chart is basically exactly the same, where we reached a high point of 551 new listings in 2019. And then this year, we're projected to have 346, which is 62% of the overall inventory. So the bottom line is that despite all of these factors that are in play, interest rates going up, recession, headlines, all of these things, there's still going to be a natural flow to the business. There's always going to be people who have reached the point where they're ready to buy their first home, or they're going to downsize their home because they had kids who graduated, or maybe there's a family who's having more kids and they need more space. There's always going to be the natural ebb and flow of the market. And these people, they're not necessarily going to be deterred from the housing market because of higher interest rates. They're going to just have to deal with it. So these folks aren't going anywhere. And there's definitely some who have gone to the sidelines as a result of what's going on in the market. But even with all these people who are taking a time out from the market, there's still enough people and not nearly enough inventory to satisfy that. So as long as inventory remains as low as it is, which is basically the lowest it's been in the past 15 or 16 years, you can expect, sure, less offers on a house, but it's still going to be competitive. If it used to be 15 to 20 offers on a home, maybe it's 7 to 10, maybe it's 3 to 5, whatever it might be. But in these places that are highest in demand, it's still going to be remaining a very, very aggressive seller's market.